What's going on, everyone? It's KingTutsPro. Welcome back to another Final Cut Pro 10 tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to show you 6 amazing and interesting and creative transitions for Final Cut Pro 10. No plugins or presets are required in today's video. The only thing I do ask in return is just for you guys to smash the like button. If you guys could smash the like button and we get to, I don't know, 200 likes in 2 hours maybe, then I will do another video just like this with your guys' requests. All you got to do is leave them down in the comment section below. Alright, so what you want to do first is you're going to go into the titles and generators. You're going to go down to generators, go to solids and add a custom solid on top of your video. And what you want to do is trim it down to the first clip. Then what you're going to do is go to the beginning of that video and you're going to go over to transform, go to the X axis, move it to the left so it's out of the frame. You're going to add a keyframe, so make sure that these values are the same. So we're going to just do -2000 to make it easy. So we're going to add a keyframe and we're going to go about 15 frames here. So we're going to go to view and you're going to go to show horizon. This will show you the center point of this video. So all you're going to do is type in, for the X axis, we're going to type in -1200 and press enter. So now when I go back and I push play, it'll look just like that. So once it's there, we're going to do the same thing. So hold option and drag upwards to make a copy. And we're going to move this to the beginning. We're going to reset this and we're going to type in +2000. So just type in 2000, press enter. You're going to add a keyframe and you're going to go to that 15th frame, which is here. And then from there, you're going to type in 1200 and press enter. So now when I push play, that'll come in exactly at the same time. So once it's at the 15th frame, you're going to trim it down to the 15th frame, so about here. And then you're just going to group those if you want. You don't have to group them, but you can. I'm just going to name this intro black screen. So once you group it together, it'll look like this. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go to custom and drag another one there. And then this one is where we're going to add our text on top. So we're going to push play, and I want this to last about here. So I'm going to press B to trim that. And once we're there, we're going to go over to the titles. We don't need show horizon anymore, so we can hide that. Go to titles and you're going to go to the basic title. So drag that above and then delete the rest. From there, what you're going to do is we're going to go back to the title and type in what you want to type. So go over here, highlight the text and type in what you want. I'm just going to do the same thing that they did. So I'm going to do don't. I'm going to type in 800 for the scale. And then the font I'm going to do is called Impact, and you're going to group them. We're going to name this Title 01. Then you're going to go over to Compositing, go to Blend Mode, and you're going to change that down to Stencil Luma. If I push play, it'll look something like that, okay? Now, you just got to do the same thing. Click on the title, and then change what it says. So instead of it saying don't, we're going to type in don't call. So now it should look like this, and you're going to select call, and then you're going to hold option and drag it over to the right. Of course, I've already changed the title of this one, but every time you're creating a new lyric, just make sure you select both of those before grouping it and making a copy. So then once you're ready, group those and name this one Title 02, and then just change the blend mode down to Stencil Luma. So it'll look like this, and you're just going to keep doing that until you're satisfied with the lyrics. So if I go back and I push play, it'll look like this. And don't worry if it's too slow, we can change the actual speed of this in the end. From there, you can see it's a little bit basic, so we're gonna just make this a little bit more animated. So select the first title group. We're gonna go over to transform, and then under scale, we're gonna add a keyframe there and go to the end of that one, and you're gonna type in 105, press enter. So now when I push play, it'll kind of animate a little bit just to make it a little bit more dynamic. Now, we don't have to do the same thing for each clip. Just press Command C on the first one, select all of the other grouped clips, hold Shift Command V, and then you're gonna make sure it's on scale and click paste. So now when I push play, it'll apply to all those clips. The last title has to be in between 2 clips. So we're gonna drag this like that. So the last title is in between this clip and the second clip. So it'll actually create a transition. So now when I push play, it'll look just like that. Super clean and simple to do, no plugins or presets. So let's move on to the second transition. Alright guys, so the second transition is one of my favorite ones from this list, and it's going to be an Instagram post transition. I have not seen this done before, so this is definitely a creative approach to using transitions for videos, as well as for, you know, if you're going to be making vlogs, TikTok videos, or just music videos in general. So if I push play, this is my take on it. Of course, it looks very identical to the original video. No presets or plugins on this one as well. And if you guys are enjoying the video so far, if you guys could leave a like and a comment down below, that would be much appreciated. All right, so what you want to do for this specific transition is have two clips, so two different scenes of the same artist, of course. So the first clip is about a second long, and the second clip here is about a second long as well. Of course, you're going to need two screenshots. So if I go over to the project window here, so all I did is I went on to Polo G's Instagram and I took a screenshot of one of his posts. So the first one is of his bio. So you want to take a screenshot of whatever you're going to be using. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take another screenshot of the middle top photo or video. For this to work, you have to have the same dimensions of whatever the post is. So if this is a square image, your video, which should be this one here, has to be the same exact ratio. So in this case, if this was a square, this clip would have to be a square as well. So we're going to click and drag this right on the actual timeline. So something like this. Now that we have that in the timeline, we're going to go over to transform, go to scale all, and we're going to type in 390 so that it fills those black edges, or you can just increase it and go like this. So 390% or 390%. And then what you're going to do from there is you're going to move the playhead at the beginning. You're going to go over to the position and you're going to move this down until we see the Instagram username, but there's a little line here. So you're going to just make sure that's not showing. So you can if you want to have posts here, but ideally the original video started about here. So we're going to go about there. We're going to add a keyframe next to this at the beginning. So add a keyframe there. We're going to go about this long. So 15 frames on this one. So we're going to go over to the Y-axis and we're going to move this all the way down to about here until it kind of shows the next post, but just before it. So right about here. So now when I go back and I push play, it'll look just like that. If you think it's too slow, right click on the first clip, go to show video animation and extend this second keyframe out. So I think like this is perfect. Now on that last keyframe, which is about here, you're going to press once on the arrow key on the right to go one frame over. You're going to add another keyframe, and then from that second keyframe, you're going to go a bit longer to about a second longer. So depending on how long you want this to last. Then you're going to go over to the position X and you're going to drag that over to the left or to the right, depending how you want this to look, but I'm going to move it over to the right. So now when I go back and I push play, it'll look just like that. We're going to trim that down to about here. So once it ends, we're going to go one frame over as well. So that looks pretty good. So now that we have that, we're going to go to the first clip that we want to use as our main clip. So we're going to drag this one right above. We're going to trim this down to match the first screenshot. We're going to go over to transform and we're going to go over to position, go to Y and just drag this down. So drag it down to match that first clip or the actual post. You're going to add a keyframe. We're going to go frame by frame. So press right on the arrow key and you're going to see that it shifts. So we're going to actually make sure that we're just tracking where the post is. So about here. So just keep doing that until it's completely out of the frame. Right on that last one, we can move it all the way out of the frame. So when we go back and we push play, you'll see it looks just like that. It's keyframed. So once it kind of pans out to the right here, we don't need to add anything, but we do need to move our second shot there. So we're going to move this clip over down like so. So if I go through, it should look like this. Now you could leave it like this. I mean, that definitely works, but I want to make it a little bit more interesting. So before we move that down, we're going to go over to the second screenshot, which is the one of this one here. We're going to click and drag this and move it right to the second clip here. Okay, so from there, we're going to go over to scale all. We're going to type in 390%. We're going to move this up. So move this up so that this middle square kind of icon is actually in the middle of this project window. You can check by going over to view, show horizon. And right now it's a little bit off. So we're going to go over to Y and we're going to move this up like that. And then you're going to notice if you go back to 25%, this anchor point, if we go to transform, this little circle with a plus needs to be centered as well. So you can do that by going over to anchor, go to Y, since we're moving up and down, we want this to be right in the middle. So once it's centered where that needs to be, we're then going to go to position on the Y axis and we're going to move this back down so that it matches the yellow horizon line. So if we go back to fit, you can now see that if we move up and down, this will now have it so it's centered exactly like so. Shift right on the arrow key. Right at this point is where we want to create our first keyframe. So we're gonna go over to scale all, we're gonna add a keyframe there. We're gonna go a couple of frames over as well, about here. Go back to transform, go to scale all, and bring this up all the way until that little box fills up the whole entire window, and click done. So now when we go back and I push play, it'll look just like that about here, and we're gonna press Command B to delete the end piece because we don't need that. So now it's gonna look like this. So once you're there, we're gonna move the second screenshot below the first one here. Ignore this video for now. I'm gonna press V to disable it. But we want this to start kind of like this, so there's no black background. So we're gonna move this so that it fills that black edge, which is about here. So we're gonna move this over here. So now if I go like this, right here is where it's going to start to move, which is exactly what we want. So right before this moves up, we're gonna re-enable the clip. And this is our second scene here. We're gonna click and drag and move this right below that one here. So it'll look like this. So we're just stacking clips now. So now with this one applied, what we're going to do, we're gonna move this all the way over. So it's like this. And once we're there, we're gonna move the plate at the beginning. And we're gonna go to opacity. We're gonna bring this down, okay? Once we can see a little bit underneath, we're gonna go to effects. We're gonna go to masks. We're gonna add a draw mask onto the clip here. We're gonna make a selection of the box. So we're gonna click once, hold shift again, hold shift again, and then let go, and then click once, and that will finish off the selection. Go to opacity and bring this back up to 100%, and then you can re-enable the main clip here. This is just getting in the way, but we're gonna disable that for now. So just before it goes up, we're gonna add a keyframe there. So go to transforms, go to scale, and add a keyframe there. Press right on the arrow key, and then you're just gonna bring this up to fill that square. So you just keep doing that until we don't see any of the image below it. So we're just gonna keep doing that. And then from here, we're gonna go all the way up to 300%. So now when we go back and re-enable the first screenshot, we're gonna push play, and it looks just like that. Super clean and easy to do. And then this, of course, would go and continue with the next clip. But that's how to use a really quick and easy Instagram post transition, which is definitely something new. But let's move on to the third transition. All right, so the third transition is going to be a conforming freeze frame transition. So this one's really cool because this is going to be also a locked on, kind of like a conforming freeze frame transition. For this to work, you need to have the first clip to have an object that you're going to actually use to transition to. In this case, the first one's going to be a bottle here, and then the second shot is of the same bottle or a similar bottle. Go over to transform and go to scale, and we're going to type in 50%. Then you're going to right click on that first clip and you're going to group it. So we're going to name this group 1, press enter. So now this acts as one single clip. So we're actually going to go on over to the effects. We're going to go down to the tiling, and you're going to go over to Kaleido title. So add that onto your video. Extend this outwards by selecting this metal circle and dragging it outwards. And you're going to do the same thing for the top one. So now what you're going to do, once you're here, you're going to move the playhead at the beginning. You're going to move this down so that it hides those black edges. So we're just pretty much getting rid of the black bars at this point. So we're just going to bring this inwards as well. So now that it's like this, increase its scale. So we're going to go over to scale all, and we're going to bring this up to something like this, okay? So 202%. Now we're going to select the second clip, and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to type in, for scale, we're going to type in 50%. We're going to group this, and we're going to type in group 2. We're going to go over to effects, tiling, Kaleido title, and add one there. And then same thing, we want to extend this out by selecting this center circle outwards. Just pull it outwards, and do the same thing over here. So just make sure you're only moving the edges here. Then you're going to bring this back up to 202%. Select the second clip and move it one frame over to the left. Now, once it's overlaid on top, we're going to go to the compositing, go to opacity, and bring that down a little bit so you can see the clip beneath it. So now you're going to go to that bottle that you want to use to transition to, or whatever object you're going to use. So we're going to go over to transform, click this little button here, and this is moving the second clip here. As you see, this guy has the bottle there, and then the girl has a bottle on her right hand. So we're going to just match those up, or we're going to overlay them on top, kind of comparing it left and right. So we're going to have to definitely make this a lot smaller. So we're going to bring the scale down, and we're just playing around with the opacity here. So we're going to have to move this down a little bit like that. So yeah, that's pretty close, as you can see. So you have one bottle here, and you have another bottle on the second scene. Move this clip back to the second clip here, so it's not overlaid. So now if you actually just push play, you could do something like this. So we're gonna go over to view, we're gonna go over to show horizon, and this will show the center point. We're gonna click and drag this so that it's on that bottle here, which is gonna be right here. So we're just gonna move this over here. We're gonna add a keyframe, so hit the plus icon, press right on the arrow key, and every time that the object moves, you're gonna reposition this clip on that center point here. It's gonna go like that. So now if we kind of go back and we see our result and we push play, you're gonna see it's staying on that frame there, which is what we want. And now we gotta match that second shot on the center here as well. So to do that, it's very simple. Just go over to show horizon line, go back to transform, and we're gonna remove this back here. Try and match that to that second shot, which is here. Perfect. So once it's there, add a keyframe, and I push play. It'll look like that. Now I do want to scale this second shot so it fills up the frame. So we're gonna go over to transform. We're gonna go to the beginning of that clip. On that last frame, which is where it stops moving, we're just going to type in 0 for the position, 0 for X. For scale, we're just gonna bring this back up to 202%. This is the beginning shot, and then it uses the same object to transition onto that.
Perfect.
Alright, so the fourth transition is going to be a very easy and simple freeze frame transition, but this one's going to be kind of like a scaling transition. So if I push play, it's going to look something like this. Alright, so you want to have your first clip in the timeline, which will be this one here, which is going to be our main clip that we're going to transition to this one here. So what we're going to do is go to the very beginning of this second clip here. We're going to go over to the top, we're going to go to edit, and you're going to go to add freeze frame, zoom out and trim this down. We're going to drag this up, directly up, and we're going to trim this down like that. We're going to move this one over and then have it so that the freeze frame ends on the first video. So if I push play, it'll look kind of like this. We're going to go over to effects, masks, which is going to be here. We're going to go over to draw mask, and we're going to add that onto our freeze frame. And we're going to click and drag to make nice curves on this hand. Once we're finished, we're going to make our selection like that. We're going to go back to fit, and we're going to go to invert. So we're going to invert the mask. And if we click off of the mask and we go to feather, you can feather this inwards or feather it outwards. Move the playhead at the beginning. We're going to go over to scale under transform. We're going to drag this all the way up so we don't see any of the edges of that mask that we did. We're going to add a keyframe at the beginning, and we're going to go about one frame to the left, and we're going to type in 100%. So it goes back to the normal clip. So when I push play, it'll look just like that. Whether it's like a design or something or a pattern, you can just make that selection and do the same thing. So this is just one example. Of course, possibilities are endless with this mask transition. So let's move on to the fifth transition. So this transition does definitely use the similar method to the last one. What we're going to use is a freeze frame. So we're going to go to the beginning here, wherever we want to use to transition to. Just go back to edit, add freeze frame. And for this one, we're going to trim this down as well to the desired length. So something like this, and I'm going to drag it upwards. I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to extend this out. So this part is the most important part. This is really how long you want this effect to last. Get the end of that clip, match it to that first clip. Go to effects, distortion. You're going to go all the way to the bottom. I'm going to go to underwater. So add that on top. And this will actually make it look like it's a video and that it's animating, but it's really a still image, which is kind of crazy. So if I push play, it'll look like this, and then it'll kind of go back to the original clip. Now what we want to do is kind of use some areas of this clip to transition smoothly from the first clip, because if we just go like this, it's kind of boring and there's no actual transition happening. So we're going to go over to Luma. So we're going to go over to King, and we're going to add a Luma keyer onto that. So the reason we add a Luma keyer is to show or hide certain areas of, light and dark. So in this case, there's a lot of dark areas in this clip or freeze frame. So we're going to click on the Luma keyer, and we're going to move these little handles over to the left to show a little bit of the first clip here. Now we don't want to move it all the way to the end or to the beginning, because if we move the highlights to the shadows, that will bring up the black areas as well. So we don't want to do that. We kind of want to find a happy medium, and you can also do the shadows and move them down over to the right as well. So play around with this to get the desired look that you're going for. Kind of want to do something like this. Okay, so if I push play, it'll look like this. Now I want to ease this end part to this clip here. So to do that, we're gonna go over to underwater and we're gonna make sure we have the same values applied. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're gonna go over to refraction. So we're gonna add a keyframe. We're gonna go to the end of that one, go 1 frame over to the left, and we can bring the refraction all the way down. So it'll look something like this. And then for the beginning part, we're gonna go over to the transitions, go to dissolves and add a cross dissolve. Delete the end. And if I push play, we can kind of do something that looks like this. Now we do want to also adjust the mix here. So we're gonna select the clip. We're gonna go about towards the beginning and we're gonna go over to mix under Luma here. So we're gonna add a keyframe next to mix, go to the end, go 1 frame to the left, and we're gonna drag this all the way to the left. And when I push play, it'll kind of show the full image and then smoothly go back to the original clip. Alright, so the last transition is going to be one that you may already know. So we're going to go over to the beginning of this second shot, which is this piece of jewelry that we want to use. So we're going to use this really cool chain here as a transition. So we're going to go over to edit. We're going to go over to add a freeze frame, zoom out, trim it down to the desired length that you want it to be. Then you're going to move it up and shift over to the left like that. So once it's like that, if I push play, I want to make it a little bit shorter. From there, what I want to do is make a selection over jewelry, but we're going to make it with 2 selections. So we're actually going to select the one is going to be the necklace and the other one's going to be the pendant. So we're going to go over to effects. We're going to go to masks, draw mask, and we're going to add that onto our freeze frame. We're then going to select the main pendant here. So make sure it's a nice selection. When you're finished, go ahead and click on that little first control point. It'll look like this. And then you're going to increase the feather outwards a little bit like that. We're going to do the same thing. So hold Option, drag upwards, and we're going to select the top clip. Now we're just going to select the necklace. So click back on the draw mask. Now this doesn't have to be a actual chain. Just make sure it's 2 different pieces. And then when you're finished, it'll look something like this. Make sure that these 2 are actually touching, something like that, because it's part of the actual chain. And then you're going to do the same thing. So increase the feather on this one out a little bit. And so now you have the first one, which is the necklace, and then the other one is the pendant. So I want the pendant to come from the bottom and go back here. Under transform, we're going to go to position and we're going to add a keyframe and we're going to move the y-axis down and we're going to go all the way to the end, 1 frame to the left, type in 0 for y, press enter. So now when I push play, it'll look like this. Ignore the speed for now. We're going to change that last. Now do the same thing for the top piece here. And we're going to go to transform, go to the position, add a keyframe. And instead of it moving down, we're going to move this up. So move it up, go to the end, 1 frame to the left, and then type in 0. So it goes back to the original position. So when I push play, it'll look just like that. Super cool. So if you think it's too slow, highlight both of those clips and group them. And I'm going to name this transition and then press Command R and just speed this up. So just bring this in closer to each other, move it back, and if I push play, it'll look like that. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. That would just be amazing. We're almost to 300,000 subscribers. If you guys can subscribe, that would be much appreciated. But yeah, I'll catch you on my next video.